It began with a dead man who never lived, a single corpse, drifting in the waves, holding the fate of World War II inside his pocket. In 1943, the war was at a turning point. The Allies had driven Axis forces out of North Africa, but Europe still burned under Hitler's control. To strike next, the Allies needed to invade southern Europe, and Sicily was the obvious target. Everyone knew it, including the Germans. If the Allies stormed Sicily, the Nazis would be waiting with tanks, troops, and air defenses, ready to slaughter them before they even reached the shore. The element of surprise, the one thing that could save thousands of lives, was gone. Unless the Allies could somehow convince the Germans to look the other way. And that's when a bizarre idea was born, one so strange it sounded insane. A deception using a corpse, false documents, and a desperate hope that Hitler would take the bait. It would be called Operation Mincemeat. The plan was conceived deep within British intelligence, in the shadowy offices of Room 13 at the Admiralty. Two men, Ewan Montague, a naval officer with a mind for deception, and Charles Cholmondeley, a quiet, eccentric intelligence officer, proposed a strategy that pushed the limits of wartime imagination. Their inspiration came from an earlier memo by a brilliant spy master named Ian Fleming. Yes, the man who would later create James Bond. His note suggested that a corpse carrying false papers might trick the enemy. Now that idea would come to life, literally. The plan was chillingly simple on paper. Find a body, dress it as a British officer, plant fake invasion documents on him, and drop him where the Germans would find him, so they'd believe it was real. But first, they needed a man who could convincingly play the part. In death. Finding a suitable corpse wasn't easy. It had to appear like someone who drowned at sea. No visible injuries, no traceable identity. After weeks of searching, they found him. A man named Glyndwr Michael, a homeless Welsh labourer who had died after ingesting rat poison. He had no family, no record, and no one to claim him. To the world, Glyndwr Michael was gone and forgotten, but to British intelligence, he became Major William Martin of the Royal Marines. They built an entire life for him, down to the smallest detail. A photograph of a fiancée, Pam, was placed in his wallet. Love letters, receipts, a ticket stub from a movie he never saw. Even a letter from his father, scolding him gently for missing a family event. Every piece told the story of a real man, an officer stationed in London, soon to be deployed. The documents he carried would be the heart of the deception. Inside a locked briefcase chained to his wrist were top-secret invasion plans. The letters, written by real Allied commanders, suggested that the Allies were preparing to invade Greece and Sardinia, not Sicily. To make it convincing, the papers even contained natural errors and informal tone, the kind of mistakes real people make under pressure. Now, they had the story. They had the body. All they needed was the stage. That stage would be the coast of Spain, near the town of Huelva, a neutral country crawling with German spies. If the body washed ashore there, the Germans would almost certainly get their hands on the documents. It was time. On April 17, 1943, the submarine HMS Seraph left the Scottish coast with a metal canister strapped to its deck. Inside, packed in dry ice, lay the lifeless form of Major William Martin. The submarine surfaced near Huelva under the cover of night. The sea was calm. The operation's success depended on a single moment of silence and precision. With solemn respect, the crew released the corpse into the water, the tide carrying it slowly toward shore. As the submarine slipped away, the sailors had no idea if the plan would ever reach the enemy's hands or simply vanish into the waves. The next morning, a fisherman discovered the body. It looked perfect. The tide had done its work. The briefcase was still chained to the wrist, a sight no one could ignore. The Spanish authorities recovered the body, and, as expected, German intelligence soon caught wind of it. From that point on, everything depended on one thing. Would the Germans believe the story? Within hours, German agents were in motion. They bribed a Spanish pathologist to secretly open the briefcase. The documents were carefully photographed and sent to Berlin. Hitler's high command pored over every detail, the tone, The handwriting, the signatures, everything looked genuine. Even Admiral Karl Dönitz, Germany's naval chief, confirmed that the British were clearly preparing for operations in Greece and Sardinia. To Hitler, it made perfect sense. Why would the Allies attack heavily defended Sicily when the weaker Balkans lay exposed? He ordered reinforcements away from Sicily, thousands of troops, tanks and aircraft, all redeployed to Greece. The bait was taken. Meanwhile, in London, Montagu and Cholmondeley waited in agony. They had no confirmation if the documents had been opened or if the deception had worked. Weeks passed. Then, a coded German transmission was intercepted. It confirmed their greatest hope. The Germans were preparing for an Allied attack in Greece. Operation Mincemeat had succeeded. When the real Allied invasion of Sicily began on July 9, 1943, German defences were spread thin. Their coastal artillery was undermanned. Their tanks were positioned hundreds of miles away. Even their Luftwaffe units were relocated to Greece. The invasion that could have been a massacre became a victory. Within weeks, Sicily fell, and with it, Mussolini's government collapsed. Italy surrendered soon after. A war that might have dragged on for years shifted dramatically because of a single man who never lived. After the operation, the British quietly buried Major William Martin in the cemetery of Huelva. His headstone read, "William Martin Major, Royal Marines, born 1907, died 1943. For decades, few knew his true identity. Even those involved in the operation kept silent, their success buried under layers of secrecy. It wasn't until the 1990s that declassified files revealed the truth, that the man who fooled the Nazis was not a decorated Marine, but Glinda Michael, a drifter who died alone. Yet in death, he achieved something extraordinary. He became the linchpin of one of the greatest deception operations in military history, one that saved tens of thousands of lives and changed the course of the war. Operation Mincemeat wasn't just a story of cunning, it was a masterclass in psychological warfare. It showed that wars aren't won only by bullets or bombs, but by belief, by the manipulation of what the enemy thinks is real. The Nazis fell victim not to superior firepower, but to the sheer genius of human imagination. A dead man had whispered lies into their ears, and they had listened. The legacy of Operation Mincemeat endures as a turning point in intelligence history. It proved that deception could be as deadly as any weapon, and that even the smallest idea, born in the chaos of war, could ripple across the world. Ewan Montagu went on to write a book about the mission titled The Man Who Never Was. It became a film, but even Hollywood couldn't capture the eerie brilliance of the real story. A single corpse, a fabricated life, and a deception so perfect, it fooled an empire. Today, the grave of Major William Martin still stands in Spain. Visitors leave flowers, not for the man he pretended to be, but for the man he was. For Glinda Michael, the nameless soul who became a soldier after death. His story reminds us that history's greatest victories sometimes begin in the shadows, crafted not by armies, but by quiet minds willing to imagine the impossible. If you found this story as haunting and remarkable as we did, make sure to subscribe to Code Red Chronicles, where we uncover the hidden operations, the unsung heroes, and the forgotten missions that changed history forever. Because sometimes, the truth is buried deeper than the battlefield.